Boom! We're on the Tru-Mon Show. Back with Arthur and Fiona. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah, well,
Very
thank
good.
you.
Great. Great. We did the formal welcome just a few minutes before, but I'd like to still welcome you on the Tru-Mon Show. It's always a pleasure for me. Fortunate, highly favored. That's what I like to say, more than blessed, because I don't want to be less. I want to be more up. You know, I don't want to be less up. It's about being more. So, yeah, so it's great to have you again. We're going to keep going tonight about the same topic we were going on last time, the self-obsession. And I would like to start this by, especially some comments came in on the channel due to the last video we did together, and I think people take things a bit too personal, and I would like you to extend in this, because this is part of self-obsession also, when you take things very personal, when you feel attacked, when you feel like it's about us. It's not about one person in particular. It's about us waking up, hopefully, with all this. So maybe you can guide us a bit, put a bit of light in there. And
touched on in the last show, but it's that thing of the definitions. They're basically like clothing material, and the social engineering forms the fashion statement, but we willingly do it. We choose to wear the clothing of the constructs, the concepts, or really the stereotyping. We define the fake persona that we are, that we claim that we are, by the fashions that we wear, right? Now, when we wear this clothing, we think that the information is us, it's part of us. So when people like us attack the definitions and the construct, people think we're attacking the man, but we're not attacking the man at all. We have no, and Santos knows this. We've already talked about this with Santos, you know, over the years since we've been dealing with Santos on and off, and that we're never ever attacked the man. Santos is always welcome to come into our house, and you know, there's a bed for him, and we'll feed him, and we'll respect him as a man. But when it comes to all the concepts and the constructs, we're not going to sit there, nod our head, and smile. And, oh yes, yes, nice, yes. We don't do that. We just straight shoot, you know, and confront. And because it's like demonic possession that needs to be released. Now, we can't force people to release it. What we do is try to stimulate so the emotion comes up and people can learn to observe, become conscious of these thoughts. Because true consciousness is not about the definition of consciousness that's been pounded in us through the new age and the old age, and through interactions with social media and friends and circles and all that. Because there's so much talking about consciousness, but none of that is consciousness. The true consciousness is the senses. And no one can define what those senses are for each of us. But what you sense, what you smell, what you see, what you hear is of the true man. And it cannot be impersonated. Nobody can impersonate what you sense, right? So what you smell, even if there's 10 of us together smelling, each one of us has a unique experience with what we're smelling. But if I explain what you smell, that is not the experience of what you smell. It's just my explanation of it. So the definition is not the experience at all.
And it's funny because if you think about it, that whole thing of definition, because say we can all stand around a vanilla pod and we all think we know what that smell of vanilla is, and yet each one of us will be smelling something different. And it's crazy, and yet we all think we're all talking about the same thing, but we're not talking about the same thing, because your vanilla smell and his vanilla smell and my vanilla smell are all different. And yet I'm assuming that your vanilla smell is the same as mine, and I'm assuming that his is the same as mine, but they're actually not.
Exactly. So what happens with the self-obsession, because it's trauma-based, we try to cover everybody under the definition. So we see only through the eyes of the definition of stereotyping, right? Now, we can't bring forward, for example, going back to Santos, no one can bring forward astrotheology in first party. First party being, hello, astrotheology, please talk to me. I want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to the man representing astrotheology. Now, let's explain this. Use the definition of Alice in Wonderland. It's in the other videos. Little Mary is a man, us, the living. Little Mary is present with the presence of life. We can sense little Mary. We can sense Jahnick. We can sense Arthur, sense Fiona, because we are present with the presence, the presence of life, right? We can touch, taste, feel, smell, hear, see little Mary. But all the time little Mary is performing or representing Alice. Alice will still never be present with the presence of life. Alice and Wonderland are just an imagining, right? It's a fantasy. So the presence of Alice in Wonderland is an illusion. So all the while little Mary is performing, and she may even claim, yeah, Alice exists. We can say to her, okay, bring forward Alice. Let's talk to Alice. I don't want to talk to you, Mary. We want to talk to Alice. I don't want a third-party representative, right? This is how it gets into law and all the stuff in the system. And we represent, because it's storytelling. We're storytelling a definition, an explanation about something. So in the same way, Santos is a man, but Santos can't bring forward astrotheology in first party, right? Same with little Mary, can't bring forward Alice in first party. All that can come forward in first party is Mary or Santos. But all the storytelling is just an imagining. So everything we see with our eyes is true with our senses. But the definitions that have been defining what we're seeing is not true. And this is the matrix, and this is how the basis of all the occults work. And all the occultists rely on this form of deception, this trickery. Because if you cannot grasp this, you're gone. You're truly gone, because there's no consciousness there. The conscios, psi is in Zion, Sion. This is the occults and the high levels. I won't go into this stuff now, but the point we're getting at is that when people are offended about a conversation where this man will say astrotheology is a load of bullshit. Now, people who wear the definitions as their social engineering comment, and that's all they see, just like little Mary, who, for example, we'll go back to little Mary here. We have opened up the story of Alice in Wonderland to our child, little Mary, and who's never experienced this. Like little Mary can't go out into nature somewhere and go and visit Alice or Wonderland and have a direct sensory experience with Alice in Wonderland. It's impossible to do. Now that's the same with ABC 1, 2, 3, and all the constructs and concepts that come out of the ABC 1, 2, 3 conversation, out of the storytelling. So you can't sense any of that stuff, right? So in the same way, when we're storytelling astrotheology, all we're doing really is wearing the fashion of the social engineering.
Yeah, because after all, they're only concepts. This is I never experienced, like I told you, all the stars in the sky and all that stuff. So I don't even know if it's there.
Let's go on. We become so attached to the social engineering. We think that's who we are, because we're practicing wearing these shirts and T-shirts, and because it's the ABC and the storytelling that forms the mapping out, because everything's mapping out. And if that's all we imagine, we think who we are is there. And when that gets threatened, we think the man's been threatened, and and this shows you the trauma, the self-obsession. Now, this is at the heart of all of the occults, because the cult, it's a cult behavior, because it's going into like Christianity, the religion. It's like a force of power of man bound together in a group. And that is like an army that will go in and decimate another tribe, because they won't sense the real lives of the living that they walk in and decimate. Just like you brainwash a child, bring them through the schooling system of that social engineering, and then send them to universe storytelling, stuck in the one universe story of all-seeing I, because that is self-obsession. That man can come out of that as an engineer and can't sense the uniqueness and originality of everything living that forms the forest. All that man can see is the projection of the definitions, the stereotyping, and see the highway they're going to build through that mountain. See the mountain ripped open, deforested, for animal husbandry or for agriculture, or strip it out to get the minerals and ores they want out of the mountains, right? Because we've lost connection, because we're not conscious. We're lost in the unconsciousness or the non-sense. So going back to Alice in Wonderland, Alice is non-sense. We can't sense Alice. Alice is not present. Only little Mary is present. Santos is present, but astrotheology is not present. So unless Santos can bring forward astrotheology in first party, so we can have a direct sensory experience uniquely, each of us having a unique sensory experience of astrotheology.
Like the vanilla pod.
Let me finish. We can get sucked into the occult, the cult of astrotheology, and become emotionally bonded to that storytelling, because that's all we see. We're lost in the fantasy of the occults. And that's what happens with the Jesus. And people worship Jesus. There never has been a Jesus. There never has been. The man, whoever the man was, is irrelevant, because we're talking about the living, the eternal present sense, because the man is undefinable. Our senses are undefinable. So it's beyond time and space, constructs and concepts. There's no past or future with man and man's freedom and man's peace and man's joy and man's abundance and man's everything. It's undefinable. And it's that who we are. And it's in that our true consciousness is. But I cannot define your consciousness, Jahnick. I can't tell you what that is, because I would be defining you. And if you accepted my definitions of your consciousness or your freedom, I will bring you under my cult of my storytelling, right? And you'll be social engineered into the fashion statements of that stereotyping, and you're gone, because now I can control you. So let's go back again. Little Mary, our child, she's sitting on our lap. We open up the story of Alice in Wonderland, and there she's reading with us, or not reading, because she still has to be social engineered into English, you know, the new old language. But we read her the stories, and she's experiencing our senses, because we're animating. We are animating Alice before our daughter, because this is what occults do. We animate. The storytelling animates the mapping out of the stars. And inside the mapping out is the occults, because we're giving our life energy to the constructs and concepts of that stereotyping. And we're saying to our daughter, we want you to be social engineered and wear the fashion statement of Alice. But more than that, we want to expand it into Wonderland, so that you can go into your bedroom, pull out all the toys and furniture, go inside the whole of the house, move the tables and chairs, and set up the Wonderland of the occults for you. So you can dress up as Alice and perform Wonderland, and everything that happens in the story of Alice in Wonderland, but all of it will be in her imagining. And we can say to her, look, you've been playing all day. It's now time to go to bed. She says, no, I don't want to go to bed. I want to keep playing. No, it's time to go to bed. Return to reality now. Mum and Dad, you now need to go to bed and have some rest, right? And she says no. So we have to drag her. This doesn't happen here, but I'm just giving you an analogy. Really, we can drag little Mary kicking and screaming. No, I want to keep playing. You know, or like little John. I want to keep playing Superman. I don't want to take off take off your costume. No, I don't want to take a go. This is the trauma. How dare you attack astrotheology? How dare you attack? We're offending Santos. We're offending the man. None of it's happening. It's just emotional, occultish, reactive, self-obsession behavior. And this is what's happening to everyone who gets sucked into this stuff, right? Because it is not your unique original dream. These are not your dreams. Now, thoughts are dreams. Dreams are thoughts. Children brought up by nature without us indoctrinating them. We're not inside their head stereotyping what they're going to see, as in the all-seeing eye. Right?
It's very interesting to talk about the children, because why does it take so long for us to know how to talk like when we're infant? It's very long to process the language, and we are very, very intelligent beings, the supreme divine beings. So why does it take so long for a child to learn how to talk?
Because it's not natural to them. So that's why they have to practice. You know, you look at a child learning to walk, they just do that. Whether you tell them to or not, they just have that in them. Right, now I'm going to try getting up and walking, and they'll just keep doing it. No matter how many times they fall over, they'll just keep going until they get it. And yet because that is naturally in them. Their desire to move, the feeling that, yes, this is in me, that I can, and they see everyone around them
it's a sense
walking.
of belonging. It's a sense of belonging that's naturally, instinctively in them.
Exactly.
And so they bond to the stereotyping of the brainwashing, because we've not actually given them full disclosure about this masking of the occults to turn our child into the English language of the occults, because the English language is occult. It's stereotyping. Right, sorry, I didn't mean to carry on.
Well, I was just thinking, actually, when you said that, it was interesting. If we all crawled around on all fours all the time, would the child still have that impulse to walk, or do they do it because they see us all walking, and so that's why they start? That's part of what they start. I mean, they would have that instinct in them anyway, but they also see us all walking as well. So it's like,
see, the thing is,
the
occultish behavior is no different. When we tried to tell little Mary it's time to go to bed, little Mary doesn't sense us, right, in that way. She's so lost performing the social engineering of the storytelling that she doesn't want to let it go, because she's formed her identity with it, because that's all she sees, and she's so used to it, she doesn't want to let it go. And that's the religion, because when you get more than one doing it together under that, you're forming a cult. When you get many doing it together, they can go into any tribe of man across earth anywhere and decimate that tribe, because they don't see the man. They only see the storytelling of the mapping out of those occultish behaviors, right, over what they're looking at.
And that this is how you must behave. This is the right way to be. I mean, and this is a total attachment to the definitions of who we are that has us still totally stuck, because we think we want freedom. We're dreaming for the freedom, but we move into, say, a community that say they want freedom, but we bring our definition with us. Yeah. And so that's why we keep being trapped, because no matter how much we think we want the freedom, we keep bringing our not freedom with us, and we keep imposing our not freedom on everybody, because no, you can't talk about that. No, you can't, attack me with that, and I'm going to take it personally. So therefore we still remain stuck, and this is when people get upset with things like, we call Santos, say what Santos Bonacci's talking about is rubbish, etc. It's that how much do we really sincerely desire to be free? Because if we do, then we have to be prepared to examine all these things that are not keeping us free. And this is the hardest thing. And this is what we say to people, oh yeah, we can get together and we can grow gardens and we can grow food. You can do that for 30 years, but you will not be free until you have the courage to examine your own self-obsession without getting self-obsessed about your self-obsession, which is the other trap you fall into, and all the definitions that are keeping you locked in. Because if you don't learn to let them grow, you can grow all the food forest you like for the next 40 years, but you'll still be stuck in those definitions.
You'll be stuck in the cult of permaculture or social or soil science. And look, we are the sensory reality is undefinable for each of us. So no one can impersonate what we smell, what we hear, what we see. It's unique and original. And it's from that, when children brought up by nature without us defining anything, that the sensations of their dreaming, that are their thoughts, that they've created, that are not explained to them. That's yellow and that's daffodil and this is science, and expanding out the stereotyping of a wonderland, because that's what we do with an occult. We create the wonderland of the cults. If we don't get inside our kids' heads, the senses forms the unique soul of the man, and that's sacred. And we're not supposed to desecrate this. This is what we're not supposed to desecrate. But we've allowed the occultish behaviors to come into our family lives. Oh, it's okay for our child running around playing Superman during the day, or allow a child to watch football, or allow a child. This has happened to me. It's happened to all of us. Man. We're all deeply compromised. But that doesn't mean that what we're saying is a lies, or the fact is, so what? This is the truth. But, we talk about an example of the kingdom word. Remember, when we use the word kingdom for your new listeners, there's no G in it. It's kingdom, but it's not dumb, we're all dumb together. If you sense our intentions, kingdom is brothers and sisters co-creating a living dream of man's life.
Without defining each other.
Without defining each other into reality, right?
Yeah. Because
everything's already existing. Reality's already there. It was already there before you even had a definition in your head to define anything about anything. And so if you look at the YouTube video of our last week's chat that we put up, if you go to our link, You see some of the comments posted in there by particular two types of people, and they're sitting there trying to define reality for us. They're arguing for the definitions of their stereotyping, but they don't want to look at it.
And they're arguing for their own prison, because the definitions are the prison we create for ourselves and for those around us, because they can't, no one can step outside that or be outside that while we continue to just put that onto people.
The most oppression you will ever have, the most experience about is your self-oppression. You know, we self-oppress ourselves so much and so many.
Exactly.
All because we feel the pressure to fit into the definitions of some sort, that pressure upon people to fit into definitions. And because of the judgment people we all receive and give out to people if we don't fit into certain definitions.
It's like going back to the kingdom thing. People say, oh, but that's Arthur, you know. They say, oh, but that's just a utopia. Look, what a beautiful idea. What a lovely dream. But come on, face reality, man. It's not going to happen in this life. It ain't going to happen, you know.
Oh, that's just human nature.
It's just human nature, you know. Everybody wants something better or more or whatever else, right? Yeah. These are all very cunning methods of doubt and uncertainty used and manipulated on those who wear the fashion statement of a freedom they dream for, or of a consciousness they live for, or of a sense of peace and hope and for goodwill for all of man. But unless you can peel back the stereotyping of the alphabet language, now let's get the alphabet language is critical, because the alphabet language actually forms the wonderland, which sets the background to the foreground. So that all the definitions that are explained to us that we use, like in English now, we're relying on the background of the meaning of the words to form the sentence structures to communicate with you and the audience now, right, in English. But that's come from the background. But we represent that brainwashing in present sense all the time because we're talking English. So the foreground is constantly at the effect of the background. The past has been projected into the future, but we are the only one present here in present sense. We're the only one here now, always here now, right? Because there's no past or future. But we are so lost in the social engineering that we've accepted the past of the brainwashing to communicate in the future, as in here and now, right? But the definitions, we didn't bring them with us into mum's womb. We didn't bring them anywhere. This was all dumped on us, like Little Mary, where we dumped Alice in Wonderland storytelling on us. So our sense of belonging to reality is very powerful, and that brings us so close to our senses, because sensory reality, we're smelling everything while the definitions are spinning in our head. We are hearing everything while the definitions of that stereotyping are being performed by us in our heads. So we are in reality, but we get so lost to the imagining of the storytelling that we are no longer conscious, because instead of being the senses of the smell and the senses of what we see and allowing that to uniquely be whatever it is, be for each of us, we slip into the storytelling from the past and we explain, define and communicate and argue, because we're in a cult of that prison of the past. The English language forms a massive matrix, and we enter the wonderland and we see through the universe of English, and astrotheology comes out of English. If not, it comes out of Latin. If not, it comes out of Hebrew. If not, it comes out of any other read and write alphabet language, because it's all imaginary. I imagine, you know, imagine. And all imagining is of the social engineering of the fake persona, the self, the I. It doesn't exist. When you can still take off all the social engineering and the man is still there, breathing.
Is that why in the word image you have a high first? Image? Like I was going to ask you, what about people that protect their image? And now it comes to...
The thing is, we all protect our image. Even if our image is not image as in a cool, trendy, fashionable image, we all have an image, even if it's the little old gardener trottling around his garden. He's still got an image, an image, you know. He's still
If
got
we
that.
don't social engineer the child, that the child doesn't have an image in that way, because the child already is the tree. The sense of the tree is already the child, because there's no definition that defines the child. See, that when we don't brainwash children, they don't think about who they are ending here at the skin and there's the tree and there's something different between us. They are who they are, but they are the tree, they are the bird, they are the wind, and there's no definition to define and shut them down. This is true consciousness, right? Now, we don't want you to believe what we say, even when you're reading. We just want you to sense the intentions behind what we say, because if you sense our intentions, you're actually working with your consciousness, and you're being conscious because you don't seek any harm upon us, because you know we don't seek any harm upon you. But what we are doing is trying to, it's like being a dentist. We want to rip out all the lies, rip out all those decayed wisdom teeth, you know, rip them out, because it's that stuff that's forcing the peer pressure on everyone to comply and acquiesce to the system. Because when people say that that imagining and self is important, they are in the system already as slaves. When they say that, when they argue for the occults, they're already in the system of the bigger picture of the alphabet language of that wonderland, fighting to survive it, because they think who they are is there amongst it all. You're right. Same with Christianity and Mohammedism and Judaism and Buddhism. To the background is a universi of the occults, and your sense of belonging has been manipulated to enter the social engineering of those constructs, where you identify who you are there, and we talk the language which keeps us imprisoned to the constructs of the social engineering. We remain lost. So what we're saying is destroy and let go of these things, because who you are, it's like the emperor's uniform is dropped. The man's still there. The living is still here. No one's been harmed. But what happens now? A true freedom begins to rise, a true paradise, because it's undefined and we don't enslave. In the system, we will fight to protect the social engineering of the language. And anyone who is a threat to that must be shut down, if not assassinated or whatever, made out to be psychotic, and we must be medicated, because what they do in the courts with people who are questioning outside the box, or that they can't control them to keep them inside. Like we talk about in the courts, they have different judges who are skilled in the social engineering. And if they think, like with mortgage cases, like we went through this, they'll bring someone more skilled in, because they got to keep the playing field and keep everyone inside it. They don't want anyone outside of it. Because if you're outside of it, you can destroy the whole damn thing and destroy the power and the authority, or the representative of the judge or the man and the law and the system, right? Now, the system's only been here for on this level, 200 years of that, but they go on like as if it's been here forever. And they go on like, remember what I said in last week's show, they didn't come in with passports and visas. They didn't come in with anything. They came amongst the tribes who welcomed them, right? And they gradually introduced the social engineering. And if you introduce the social engineering, you can introduce occultish behavior. And with that occultish behavior, you get the religion, where people start to form their little groups. And then you can, and if they don't watch out, this self-obsession can begin to clash with another religion, and you'll start to create the chaos, this conflict. And when you get the conflict, they can then provide the order to the whole conflict. So all the while, people have been dreaming for freedom since our ancestors fell from paradise. And I'm jumping short here. They had everything perfectly. Yet they fell from paradise, and all their descendants, all the children ever since, have never been able to return to this paradise where they had everything. So it's so close to the truth, our senses. But if we don't route out this occultic practice, the social engineering will keep us as enslaved to the system, where we define the fake persona and believe that's where our sense of belonging is. And we will actually go to war as Christians to destroy someone who ain't, because it's a threat to our Christendom. It's a threat to the kingdom of our Christendom. It's a threat to Jesus that we worship as our Messiah. It's a bloody lie, guys, because this is occultish behavior. Because you are the man, you are unique and original here and now. It cannot be defined. But why are you allowing what's undefinable to be defined? You see, the creator, let's go back to all those who get stuck in this, you know. Imagine the dream of life is a bubble. And the creator, and I'm not talking about a defined man now or anything. I'm just giving you a linear analogy to try and help you comprehend a non-linear reality. It's holding the dream of life in your hand. And then this bubble is the universe of every thought ever dreamt that makes up everything that you experience with your senses, from the soil to the stars to everything that's moving, the birds, the trees, the wind. But it's just an idea. It's just an imagining, just an idea. And so the creator had to give life to this bubble, everything inside it. And so the creator moved inside from non-linear to linear reality and set into motion everything. So the presence of the creator is present to the bird, is present to the cow, is present to the wind and the rain and the trees and the insects and the creatures and the celestial bodies and everything, because it's the presence of the creator that set life to everything. But that consciousness is undefinable. The consciousness of man is that creator that came as man into the living dream of life. Now you imagine there's no outside or inside to the bubble. There's no within or without to the bubble. There never was a beginning or end to the bubble, that it just is, undefinable. And there is man as God amongst this paradise with perfection. Not perfection in fantasy through the concepts, just a perfection, everything unique and original. Every grain of sand, unique and original. Every drop of water, unique and original. One can't be defined to the next. Every leaf, every feather, everything unique and original. Every moment, unique and original, unquantifiable. This is true consciousness, right? So when you peel back all the definitions and we get back to this, it's already here now. This is who we are. And there's the creator amongst paradise. And the creator dreams for another man. And that man is gifted with the legacy of the original dream. Unique and original man with unique original dreams in undefinable paradise. And everything that man does, his son, is unique and original. That's the true Christ. That's the true Jesus. But not a fucking Messiah, not a savior. A man doesn't need to be saved. There's no, who we are is already all those things and more. We're beyond all this, but we doubt.
So you explain our need to define everything exactly by self-obsession.
That's what forms self-obsession, because if we hold on to the definition, it's like from undefined reality of the man in paradise, we now have to create a jar and hold the memories of the explanations, right? In this case, it's each thought is a fashion statement we're wearing. We put on that T-shirt, we put on that shirt, we put on that jacket, and we're putting on multi-layers, man. We're wearing a pretty heavy wardrobe on us of this fake language.
Yeah.
And yet, right now, in every instant, the uniqueness and the originality is there amongst us all. If we drop all the social engineering, everything that exists still existing, because it doesn't need the social engineering to exist. That's why we say you don't need to take a child to a tree and define the tree to the child before the child can sense it. The child already is sensing the tree. The uniqueness of the man is already there. We don't have to define it by doubting the child, and we have to drag it, because that's what happens when we sit. We've done this. We are perpetrators of this. We just didn't know. So we're going to correct all that. We're already working on correcting, and it's going to take us a lifetime to fix the damage we've done to our children, because they're going to have to, if they take this on, they're going to have to, with our grandchildren, we all have to work through this stuff. But stress the point. If we do not wake up to the social engineering, we will think that what we have defined will be the truth, which means we won't, what Fiona said at the beginning of this today's show, if we don't have the ability to scrutinize and examine what we're thinking, we won't see astrotheology is just a fantasy, because it is, right? The living astrotheology doesn't exist. It can't come forward in first party. There's nothing of reality needs astrotheology to exist so they can exist. Nothing has to eat astrotheology so it can live. There is nowhere we can go and visit the address of astrotheology and sit under a tree with it, and let's all eat and food and drink and laugh and have a great time with astrotheology, and then go home. And I could send a thank you card in the mail to it the next 2 weeks and say, thanks for a wonderful day. This doesn't happen, guys. It's just a fucking fantasy. Truly is a fantasy of the occults. It's the same with God. The same thing happens with God. Same with Jesus, Muhammad, and Allah, and Buddha.
And it's weird. It's weird you tell me that about God and Jesus, because today I was out making videos, and suddenly there's two guys that show up and they stay in front of me for like 2 minutes before they get out their car. And he said, "I have something to tell you." I said, "Great. I have my camera is on." He said, "I want to talk to you about Jesus and God."
Oh.
Look what you tell me tonight. So I opened up to him. I was respectful, because I seen the trauma and the confusion, but I was telling him where right at start. I said, "Listen, God for me, whatever. It's you, it's me, it's all of us waking up. This is what the divine is, the divine force." But I said that don't tell me that I'm gonna find God somewhere up in the sky or whatever, or in heaven, or tell me that Jesus was crucified on the cross. I said the Jesus story, I think it's all a metaphor, because I think we should all attain Christ consciousness. We should all have the consciousness of the Christ, or whatever representation it is. And
if we accept this, we're admitting that we're fallen.
Yeah.
And we think that we're less than anything. And that's the definitions for you. And that's because that is what keeps the Freemasons in power. While we accept definitions, we are less than what we really are, because we have fallen in a state where we don't even know who we are. And that confusion is like a mist all around us, of man-made mist of chaos. They will provide the order, because look, we can't get on with each other. We've got to provide you with some laws and rules now. And then they'll stir and stimulate all that activity too, to continue keeping us in the enslavement of their law, of their government, of their politics, right? And of their religions and all that. And that's why you get two men coming to you to come and talk to you about God and Jesus. They're coming from the system, representing the system, just like little Mary and Alice in Wonderland, to say, "I do not want you to lead the system. You are one of us. I don't see who you are, Jahnick. We don't see you. We don't sense you. But we want you to be one of us in our cult."
Yeah, that's what he told me. He gave me his card and everything. I found it interesting. But I said, "I'll come and share my story if you want."
I bet they love that. The thing is,
He didn't reply. He left 5 minutes after.
Okay.
Excuse me.
No, that's the thing. And when Arthur was talking also, Fiona, about social media, that's what I see a lot, the self-obsession, especially on Facebook. It's getting so bad, and children are being caught up into it so young. So it's so devastating with what's going on with this. And especially me, I'm a lot in touch with reggae singers, and that's all I see is selfie from them on stage. Like, all this to me, I don't know. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right inside of me when I see it. So
it's so taught to us that I think we get in this real fear and doubt and uncertainty that we can do it differently, that we can live without them. But look at the amount of energy the occultists have to put into keeping us in those definitions. They have to constantly remind us of the definitions, which is why we have all the advertising, all the social media, all the news channels. It's such hard work, because I think we'd find if we switched off all the TVs, the computers, all the energy centers, and just got away from it all, it would be incredible how fast we would let go of it. Because I mean, I remember talking what we were saying earlier about children and how they don't see themselves as separate. I've had conversations with people, one woman particularly I remember, who said, and she wasn't into what we were talking about, it was just a conversation that came up. She said she distinctly remembers being about 8 or 9 and being in a car with her best friend and the parents, and just having this sudden moment of realization that she and her best friend were separate, were not the same. So that's showing even up to that sort of age of 8 or 9, our children still have that ability to be tuned into things, and they've already been under the hammering of definitions since they were born. Because us as parents, we start already, it's a girl, it's a boy, she's a good sleeper, she's a bad sleeper, she cries. All these are definitions we're chucking on our children.
Blue for the boy.
And with children.
And we keep doing it, but it's still taken 8 or 9 years before that final severing, where she kind of went, "Oh, I am not her, when she is
the
her.
knife goes in the heart. Bam! Die!
Yeah.
You're individual.
So you just flick the switches on all those things, turn it all off. I think it's like we mentioned last week, it's only really been the last couple of 100 years that the true decimation of Earth has really taken hold. Before that, yes, it was the system, but before the industrialization and all the technology, Earth was pretty much, there was still most of Earth would have still been undecimated. So it's going to be not much time, to use that word, at all, if we just turn everything off and stop putting our energy there.
Yeah, it's the onslaught of social engineering of the religion, of the cults that spread out to force everyone into the cult of the Freemasons. That's decimated all of Earth, because that's all they can do. They've got to destroy reality to maintain their power and control, because they are so delusional themselves. They believe they have the right view of everything. Forget the satanic religion and how it all works, but in the end, it is social engineering, and that's why you're seeing the Amazon being destroyed. It's social engineering. We are, just like she said about the child. The child, it took all those years of pounding before the child was finally broken. The moment the child saw it as an individual, separate, that child is gone. It's gone. It's been murdered. There's no soul there, because we are not individuals. We're not self-centered. You see, we are the tree. The consciousness, look, a child brought up by nature, the sensations of the tree is already the child's dreaming. There's no, what the child is experiencing of the tree is the tree. So why would the child harm the tree? Because in harming the tree, the child's also being harmed. Yeah. So when the true consciousness is undefinable, again, going back to the bubble, the creator had to set the dream of life into motion, and it came as God into the dream as man. And God is man, because only man can hold the dream of life, because we are the only one who can sense it. No one else said they can sense it for us. We're the only one experiencing. There's no galactic federation, UFOs, aliens, and other entities holding the dream of life and being present to it. All that storytelling. No, we as an occultish behavior, that's self-fulfilling prophecy stuff, I think we touched on last week's show. The occultish behavior of one man holding a dream of social engineering, brainwashing, indoctrinating another man over 8-9 years, like that child, and then another one. We are forming the occults and energizing it, just like the creator held the dream of life and then moved this life into the bubble to create the dream of life. Right? He gave it life to set it into motion. So it's not just an idea; it's a living dream with the life of the creator embodied in everything. But the creator is not deep. It's not lineal. It's non-lineal. It's undefinable. Right? The occults come defined, so they don't see you, the man. They come as the missionaries, scientists, botanists on those UFOs, and they come and live amongst the tribes to indoctrinate, map them out, right? When you suck everyone in, all the life energy given to the social engineering, or the fabric of the social engineering, energizes the apparitions of everything inside it. So when you're forming the apparition that come out of English, you'll build cities and skyscrapers, you'll destroy mountains, you'll obliterate everything, because you don't sense reality. You're only performing the definitions. No different to, okay, children, we're going to perform Alice in Wonderland today. I want you to be the rabbit. I want you to be this. I want you to be the Mad Hatter. I want you, I want you to be the prop. And so all these kids work together to perform the play. Well, that's no different to being brainwashed in the system in English and having to go to school and then go to university, and then your blue collars and white collars and laborers. And everyone is performing the cult. So we are raising up from the dead what doesn't exist. We're raising up all the stereotyping and saying, this is reality. This is the law. And look, there's a man wearing a set of judge, carrying out the law. These are the politics. These are the politicians in power. This is the law, because they're all inculcated. All of them are brainwashed. Everyone everywhere is. And we fight to keep the prison going, you see? So that's a legion. It's a cult. The energy we give to it becomes self-fulfilling, because what we see of a constitution is what we want to manifest. So we need everybody else to become it, so we can have the constitution that we dream for, that we have the politics that we dream for, that we have the way of life that we dream for. but it can be only done by a few high priests in Freemasonry who are manipulating everyone to do it because they see themselves as gods themselves, you see, and they sucked everyone into the dream and they get them all as slaves to this dream. And that's why it's self-fulfilling. And that's why when people, I said in last week's show, you can get enough people together who all dream for love. Everybody's got this dream for love. We're all got it. We're all got good hearts, right? Really, no matter how bad we've fallen in evil ways, evil practices, the good heart's still there. The man's still there, gifted with everything we're all gifted with, right? So we can direct our life energy into the occults of Christianity, feed the apparition of a Jesus, feed the apparition of the Virgin Mary, and it will reappear inside the hologram, right? Well, everyone else is also holding that same image because it was painted, pictured, right? So we get healed by the very dream we hold of our good heart. Or we deep down, we sense something not right, and someone will come to help us overcome the doubt about us. And where Christianity rises us up, and we all become awakened. But we've all done it to each other. It's just social engineering, but it's a trick, clever, cunning way of sucking us in and keeping us in the system.
That's why we're bombarded with images and logos and all kinds of stuff.
And we're doing it because we're inside the bubble of Christianity, or inside the bubble of Allah and Muhammad and the Quran, or inside the Bhagavad Gita, or we're inside the Old Testament, you see, or the New Testament, or inside the New Age. And it's just quantum. People call it like quantum physics. We are that, and we energize it, and we raise up these constructs and concepts from the dead. But see, we as man, we're the only first party to the experience of whatever we experience. There's nothing else there, right? It only be an apparition or a man-made physical material form of something that looks like a UFO or an alien, but it can't be sustained forever, right? It'll be dead, like that dead corpse we talked about in last week's show. So we are at the effect of what we feel from our heart that we sense, because our heart is unconditional. Our sense is undefinable love, unconditional love, but not defined, right? But the social engineering brings us so close to what we feel that we'll accept it. And when we give our energy to this, we will destroy everything about our heart, in spite of how close it appears to be true.
That's what is happening with Flat Earth on YouTube. I think I have been in there for a while. Like the horizon is horizontal. Like I told you, I can see it, but the rest I cannot really experience nothing. So it's there's lots. We're bombarded with lies and false truth, and if we don't use scrutiny, we're fucked.
And the problem is, because of the doubt we feel, or the doubt we have in our own ability to sense, we put all our trust in the definitions. And this is how we're very easily manipulated, because all it means is the occultists just have to make sure that they have a few good people coming forward, talking the talk of the definitions, singing the mantras, and we put our trust in them as well, because we already trust the definitions, or they provide the definitions that seem to us to make sense to the yearning in our souls. And so then we put our trust in the people who appear to be
we put our trust in government,
appear to be taking us out of the definitions, but in fact it's all controlled, all within the system, and it's all more social engineering, because we're still putting our trust into somebody else and what they say, and that's how they can easily manipulate it. That's why you have a good figure rising up out of the grass movements, saying all the right mantras of freedom, consciousness, etc. But really, if you examine what they're saying, most of the time there's no remedy there. There's nothing, no actual practical steps to take to walk out of the system. And it's all within the confines of the system. And that's how they get us. They take the yearnings we have for freedom, but then they start defining it for us. And we're so full of doubt.
They give you the freedom of government. And the government is providing you with the freedom.
Yeah.
They're giving you the freedom of the consciousness that defines your freedom, but you're still enslaved to the definitions of the explanation of a freedom that comes, inside the stereotyping. So we get trapped So our children are practicing it from so young because we give them fairy tales to perform. So they're assimilated into doing it as adults. So childhood representing Alice in Wonderland becomes child representing as the judge or the politician or Santos Panacci with astrotheology, right? This goes into Mark Pazio. It goes into David Icke with the reptilian shape-shifting and all that. Look, it's all man-made manipulation. They are relying on the doubt and uncertainty because you still don't know who you are. You're still lost in confusion. And meaning they'll keep feeding you with the sentiments. All the sentiments we've got to deal with Palestine. We've got to stop the wars that are going on. We've got to stop this injustice and cruelty. Stop destroying the ocean. Stop destroying the Amazon. It goes on, right? They're going to bring all of man to their knees. Something must be done. And then one of their greatest occultists will come out and will just, with one flick of its finger, it will all stop. Because the occultists are controlling all the major institutions, controlling everything. And this will be the New World Order because it's a remedy to this chaos, right?
There's one thing. Hold on. There's one thing I wonder, and really it's on my mind. I want to give it to you before I forget. If we have such a high level of self-obsession, why don't we start all designing our life and living our dreams and going after our greatest version of ourselves and actualizing ourselves into this matrix to inspire others, at least to create a change to why, if we're so self-obsessed by our ego, our image and stuff, why don't we create a life that's genuine instead of falling for the herd mentality and all that?
The self-obsession is confusion.
Yeah.
You're relying on confusion to bring order, to bring peace, but you're just self-fulfilling, self-projecting. That same thing about Christianity. And I was just telling me before I went to the bathroom. You can't like that. You have to use your senses to do that. But they're not. You don't. You've got to work with your senses to unhook, not the definitions. If you rely, look, sense is not the alphabet thoughts in your head. Sense is not the alphabet thoughts you and I are talking. There's no sense there. But if you sense our intentions, you will sense, and you can learn to, in your way, to unhook from the stereotyping that imprisons you, because we are each the prisoner. We are the prison warden and the prisoner.
Okay, what about intuition? What about intuition? You cannot really sense intuition, but I know I have it. Right.
Well, that's your senses. It's going to be your senses as well.
No. It's different. No one can define your senses. Your senses are unique and original. And learning to recognize it means you can't rely on the alphabet thoughts in your head to define what you sense. So you end up not talking because there's nothing to talk about in English because your senses is undefinable. You just be it and start taking responsibility for that and walk that talk. And be it, right? So intuition is an occultist. They are in the tuition. They're under the storytelling. That's how you form an occultist who will grow up in Freemasonry. They're in tuition. Watch out, it's cunning.
Okay,
that's what astrotheology is all about with Santos. You're in tuition, and you're trapped in the self-fulfilling prophecies of that image. No different to a child. Mum and Dad, I want to go and play. They practiced Superman yesterday. They go and find the Superman costume, wear it again. That's self-fulfilling prophecy because they're in tuition to the storytelling from the past and they want to represent it by projecting into the future so they can play it again tomorrow. So that's what politics is all about. Religion and government and law. All the whole of the system is this bullshit.
You said about why don't we, with our self-obsession, go and create genuine lives? The problem with self-obsession is that it's selfish, it's greedy, it's often lazy, it's nothing to do with unconditional love because it's all about me and my thing and what I want and what I have. That is the big problem with self-obsession. Even if we think like it's all through the New Age, even though the New Age is supposed to be about love and peace and joy, it's all about me in the New Age and me in the love and me in the peace. That's why we can't create anything. We've got to if we get off the self-obsession, we're not creating anything for who we are. We're creating it for those around us. And that's the mega difference.
Let's expand on that. When you said, what did you say? Me in the, what did you say?
Me in the love, me in the
it's actually
freedom.
I need you to be
Exactly.
my slave so I can perform my self-obsession. I need you to be my slave so I can perform my self-obsession. I need you to be conquered so I can perform my self-obsession. I need you to be the white collar and the blue collar, to be the bank teller, to be the insurance clerk, to be the truck driver, to be the garbage collector, to be this and that. I want you to be all my fucking slaves so I can be the self-obsession that I live for. I need the pantomime. So as a child, I need to change this house into the Wonderland, using all the furniture into Wonderland so I can perform my Alice. So mum and dad don't exist here. You know, we come home late in the afternoon, we're knocking on the door, we can't get in because one of the wardrobes is pushed up against the front door. The back door is also closed because the whole house has been changed. You know, there's an order to the house for all of us to live together in the house. We can't do it because one of our child loves their fucking story so much. And they say, no, I haven't finished playing, Dad. Come back in an hour and I'll fix it up. No, son, we live here too. You know, Earth is our place too. We all are of Earth. Let us in to Earth. Let us into freedom. Let us into paradise. Why are you keeping us out? You know, you see, we do it. We do it. We train our children to do it. And so they grow up in these religions, in these cults.
And the window we have with our children is very, very small to tell them the truth, to empower them to their greatest version, to tell them the truth. The version, it's very tiny, the window, because there's
too, the problem. Yeah, this is the problem. You see, when we recognize that we shouldn't be indoctrinating our children, shouldn't be instructing them and explaining things to them, it's like then you think, okay, I step back, I don't say something, but then they're constantly being bombarded with all the system stuff that it's like, well, what do? Do we counter that? So you end up countering that by explaining stuff about what's happening to them, but you're still explaining and stuff. And this is why really all children need an acre or so of bush that they can lose themselves in, and without us going this, that, and the other in their heads.
It's undefinable freedom when they're brought up by nature, because they have no dependency on another man to survive the self-centeredness of their obsession, right? Because it's only the brainwashing of the occults that makes us dependent on another man for us to perform the pantomime of the system. A child brought up by nature already stands on its feet as a man. It doesn't need another man for anything. It doesn't have a conversation instead about surviving the self-persona. It doesn't exist. So it doesn't behave like that, it doesn't act like that. But when you get to children and you inculcate them with this storytelling, you will turn them into the zombies, the robots with software programs, and they will convert everybody else, because that's why the two men or women or man and woman came and saw you today, with whether Jehovah's Witness, whoever they, because we had two Jehovah's Witnesses the other day come past there too. Same thing. But, you know, because they wanted us to come and celebrate their yearly anniversary or whatever there was, this anniversary they were celebrating, because they came and gave us a card. But the point I'm getting is that everybody who fights for the occults wants you as a slave. This is what you're going to have to face. Do you really want slavery? Because if you want slavery, that means you still want the water to come from the local council and the water board to your home. You still want to be plugged into the grid of the electrical system. It doesn't matter whether it's Tesla technology really energizing it and they're bringing it out of whatever, or whether it's fueled by electrical power generators. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether you want to get into flat earth, because while you're all caught up in flat earth, you need slaves everywhere so you can run around and be the flat earther.
But I think it's our needs also. It's our need for drama and sensationalism, and you see that because there's channels talking about flat earth, like me, that don't have subscriber too much, because I also involve deep truth and deep looking at yourself, where others it's basically sensationalism and they just pump it in and pump in the subscriber or buy them or whatever. But it's very much I see it's a big circus. It's not so much about truth, because the truth is us. It's us, the truth. The truth is what you can experience, is what it is. It's you, me. It's what you say in the first party. So what is all this explanation needs for? Why do we need to be... And that's also very taking away the sacredness from things a lot, because now you don't look at things in a sacred manner anymore. You want to find the deeper meaning of the sun, of the moon, of the stars, of the waves, of the seas, of the...
Desecration. Desecrate everybody. Desecrate everything.
Yeah.
Because self-obsession of the occults, because we're a cult follower. That's all we see. That's why the Freemasons came across the waters. They didn't see the man on the land and their uniqueness and originality and all their sacredness. They came to desecrate it.
Yeah.
Right? And we're living in desecration right now. We're all desecrated. So while you want your flat earth, you want to continue desecration. Look, we talk about one of the earlier videos with you. Just have one screw. One screw requires tens of thousands of brainwashed men, women, and children. Right? And devastation to earth to have one screw for me to work in the garden with, or a power tool. So for us to have flat earth, it requires tens of thousands, hundreds, millions of brainwashed drones for you to have flat earth, for you to have your Jesus, for you to have your God. Now, if you can't get your head around this and wake up,
the first thing they're gonna the first thing they're gonna tell you is the purpose of this is because they're hiding God. What, they hide you? They hide me? They hide us?
God can't come forward in first party. This all-powerful God that created everything can't come forward and talk to us freely of its own free will. It has to be a mysterious God that hides behind the silhouettes of fantasy. It can never come into the affairs of man's life and be present amongst the living. Right? We have to rely on the explanations to find it, because a child has to be brainwashed into the idea of a God or the idea of a Jesus, and the storytelling that comes with Old Testament, New Testament, Buddha, Allah, it doesn't matter. The whole thing comes together. You accept one little bit, you got to take the whole lot. Where is this God? Where is this Savior, this Messiah? You see, when you believe this stuff, you're saying, I'm not good enough. I'm fallen. I need you to rescue me, meaning I won't take responsibility for who I really am. I'm going to keep passing the buck. I'm going to pass it over to the government, pass it over to the religion. Really, we pass it over to the occultists, the Freemasons, behind the government, behind the order, behind the authority, the author of rights, the author rights, right? We're behind, and we keep giving it over because we're inculcated by them. They both created the chaos, the confusion, and they provide you the order. So they suck you both ways. So when they come to you with your God, and it's a mysterious God, you know right now you're in the system as a slave, because you're not in a forest untouched and non-desecrated. You're already desecrated. Watch out, because people who come to attack you with these things, they're already got at and brainwashed themselves. They don't know who they are. And you're relying on their argument. This is why a lot of people come and try to discredit what we do. They can discredit as much as they like. We don't mind. But they don't have a remedy. I ask them, what's your remedy that's going to set us all free from all of this? They haven't got one. I ask them, show us the remedy you got that provides freedom, truth, peace, joy, abundance, do no harm, no loss of uniqueness, originality, no slaves and rulers. That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants this. Everyone dreams, no one will disagree. So it defaults back to their belief, to their occultic practices, you see? And so watch out for all the cynicism, all the ridicule and abuse. Watch out for the personal attacks. You've got to let it just go straight over your head. Don't have any emotional attachment to any of it, because you can't do anything about these people, right? If they don't, because you know what's really happening? I want you to be my slave. I want you to stay in slavery so you can keep the system rolling along, so I can get the good I want out of it, all the good I want out of it. They don't want to see all the bad. They don't want to see you destroyed. They don't want to see your children destroyed. They don't want to see your neighbors destroyed. They don't want to see the forests destroyed, nature abused. They don't want to see all the corruption and all that. They don't want to see any of it. They just want all the good things, right? But the good and the bad all come together. You cannot have one without the other. So when they come and attack you, you just got to let it go, because you can see the bigger picture, and you must see the bigger picture, because you don't want slavery. Anyone who's true does not want slavery. So don't listen to the utopia argument. Don't listen to the manipulation of your doubt and uncertainty about who you are, because they will manipulate your heart, your good intention to default. Okay, the next best thing is we keep going with the system. Now look, Sasha Stone, I've mentioned this. He's behind this. He's not the only one. There are so many of these people. I can name names here. The New World Order is going to meet the heart of everybody who still won't take the full responsibility to be the man, non-desecrated man, non-stereotyped man, right? Undefinable man. Don't want to take on that full responsibility. So the next best thing is, well, okay, I'm not good enough. Let's let them bring an order to this chaos. We're going to stop all wars. We're going to stop all destruction. We're going to stop all this blaming the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and all the corruptions that come out of them, because that's part of the red herrings. They are behind it, occultists behind that as well, right? So we all default to a new system. It's going to look like something out of Star Trek Federation. And they're all going to be really nice Knight Templars. They won't dress like that. People just think they're one of us. And they're all heroes and rescuers to save us all from this nightmare. But we will sell out.
Any revolution's been led by secret societies, Freemasons or whatever in the past. We've never led any revolution. So we cannot think that, oh, flat earth is the revolution for people. You know what I mean?
Because there can be man truly waking up when man does. There is no leading. That's the problem.
Yeah, no leaders.
There are no leaders. So none of us can lead the revolution to freedom and consciousness. And this is part of the problem, because growing up in the system, we're all totally accustomed to being led by someone, to following someone, to being told, or to being that leader. But even the leaders are following someone. So that is why we will never lead a revolution to true freedom, peace, consciousness, etc., because there is no one to lead, and no one to follow.
There's a definition. We lead the definition.
Exactly.
So then we follow the man who provided us with the definition. So when you follow astrotheology, you follow Santos Bonacci. So when you follow God, you follow the men and the priests who act as the authorities, the author of rights, because that's a right. Now, you got to learn this, guys. Right is R-I-T-E, W-R-I-T-E, and R-I-G-H-T. They're all one and the same. But you've got to be very cunning. You've got to be really smart using discernment, and you've got to be very, very vigilant to see how these things play out. Because when you follow another man, you're following the occults of the definition that binds you to another man. And that's how we are stuck in the system, because we are following another man. We sold out. Go back to the original dream. There's the original dream of creation. You see, every dream needs a creator. You cannot have a dream of life without a creator. Someone has to have the dream and hold the dream. So there's the creator holding the dream. It comes into the bubble, and there's God as man. We are that. And the legacy is passed to all of us who have created out of that. Right? Doesn't matter how it all happened. Now, there's no beginning to that. There was no end to this. It's non-linear. But the point is, the same thing works with the occults. Someone comes up with an occultic practice, a definition, but there's a man in it. So when you follow the occults, in this case, if you love the dream of life, of all of nature, you're holding the creator in your life too, of the original dream. But you know, that's undefinable. It's non-stereotype. But in the occults, you're holding the man. In this case, the grand architect of Freemasonry. You're holding the system, where all the read and write alphabet languages includes hieroglyphics and all the images that come out of this stereotyping, out of these definitions. So when you accept the remedy of the New World Order to bring peace, you're bringing in all the Federation, all these brothers and sisters who are in it to provide the order of that remedy. Meaning you're still selling out, giving your power to these people, because you still don't know who you are, because you're confused. Because if you're not confused, you don't need anyone to lead you. You don't need anyone inside your head, because you're supposed to be unique and original. Right? Now, how many years has it taken to social engineer all of man across Earth, where English has now become the first language, because it was planned back 900 to 1100 years ago. They planned all this, right? They planned everything, that they would go to every tribe of man across Earth, all through Europe, all across what we now call the Pacific Islands and Oceania, Asia Pacific, all through China, what we now call China, right? They had 300 years of the East India Company in now what we call China. They had to create wars within wars and break it down and turn them into groups and names and categories. And, you know, you look at what's happened with the Arabs in the Middle East, you have all these different sects, all these different types of Arabs, and they'll fight with each other. But it was the occults who brought all this about, this method. So they've got to break man from being a man, get the man lost to the occults, bring him into the sect of that tribe, turn that tribe, like here in Australia, they came as with, in their story, Captain Cook, and landed here on what we now call Botany Bay in Sydney. Now, that would evolve eventually into a colony, and then another colony, and another colony, and then there's problems amongst the colonies. So then they create a state of New South Wales to bring the colonies. And then there's still problems. So they created the Commonwealth of Australia, the Federation of Australia. And yet the original man on the land is now stuck under the local council, stuck under the state government, stuck under the federal government. Right? Because the problem was greater than the man. The problem was something got beyond the man's responsibility. So the man had to be conditioned to accepting something bigger than the man, so that they will accept the remedy of state government, local government, federal government, one world government. We've got a world problem all on our hands. So these people, they on their ships, they brought chaos to every single man everywhere from within to break every man down through the generations and then bring them all back so close to the truth, but under one world federation for all our hearts.
But there's one thing when we say they, because you refer to as they, but I think I see it more as we and us, because we are perpetuating also this this overlay. We are creating a lot of evil stuff,
but you've got to know
evil
who
ways.
they are.
But
If we
who are they? If you say
Occultists.
they, who do you
Occultists.
consider they? Occultists?
Occultists, men and women, just like you and us. But if we don't realize it, they'll come like lambs. They'll come like your best friend, and they will be destroying you, and you don't see it. Look, this is not a war with them, but you have to be vigilant and discerning. You must have scrutiny to rout out the nonsense, because if you don't, you'll be so lost to the fantasy of all the storytelling that leaves you in a state of confusion. And inside the confusion, on the mirror of your fake identity, you'll be projecting the reflections of that social engineering, and they'll be standing next to you in the reflection too, as one of you, as one of your mates, and they've got your arm around you. Look, we're here. We're going to lead you to the Federation. I'm one of you. I'm one of your brothers, right?
The fact is, it doesn't matter who they are. You know, as you're suggesting, can become another red heading when you get caught up in the who's this and who's that and who's connected to who and who's doing this. The fact is, so long as you become aware of the definitions being thrown at you all the time, it doesn't matter who they are, because you can just choose not to buy into those definitions. And that is your freedom from the definitions. So it doesn't matter who they are. It's just being aware when anybody talks to you of the definitions that they're trying to put you into.
Yeah, listen, let's go back again. We energize the definitions with our life force energy. They become a reflection in the mirror, okay, that we look at, and we think that is who we are. And that I, all-seeing I, that self, becomes an obsession, because we've identified that's who I am. I'm a Greek, and I see the reflection in my head, the echo bouncing between my ears, because it was defined to me over and over and over again. And my name is Arthur, and my dad came from here and this island, and is that, and my mum came from here and that, and so, and here I am now in Australia, and I was born in Crown Street Women's Hospital, and and I've been given an age and a birthday, and so we form this identity. Now, if we are not conscious, the fake persona we are projecting, which was defined for us, because we didn't define age or cult or sect or anything, race or creed. We didn't define any of this. It was defined for us. We weren't born Christian. We were inculcated into Christianity. We were brainwashed into Christianity. So unless we are vigilant and like standing in the mirror in front of the mirror in the bathroom, if you don't see the reflection that you're projecting of your fake persona, you will think, as you practice, the child who believes that there's Superman in the costume, they can grow up and always be Superman and never ever take that costume off, right? They will grow up. You can grow up and become liberal, Democrat, or you can grow up, become Christian and be wearing that costume all your life. You can grow up wearing the costume of God or his savior or Messiah or Rastafarian. You can grow up, there's a whole range of these self-obsessions. If you don't learn to route it out, if you don't route these influences out, you're gone. And you will be, and I say you, I'm talking all of us, you will fight for the slave system to continue under another guise, and you will put the peer pressure on even us and our children to be those slaves, to perform in the remedy that will be on offer, where everyone must work together to bring peace. But this peace is contrived and is a desecration of the uniqueness of every man, because we don't even know who we are, because it was desecrated so young in all of us. So our videos, our talks with you, all the Love for Life work is for those who want to put the effort in to recognize this and then begin to work on how to disconnect. Now, look, no disrespect, but you don't go anywhere in nature to find a monkey grabbing what we now call marijuana, drying it, and making a bong, making papers, rolling a joint, and see monkeys smoking marijuana or any animal, right? No, that doesn't go to nature. But what you do see, you see animals going and eating it.
Eating it raw.
Or knocking it down because they're walking through and flattening, and other creatures come through doing what they do, right? But you don't see poppy plants being turned into morphine and heroin and all that naturally, right? So the same with alcohol and fermentation in that way. You can see the natural fermentation in the humus and the breaking down as the forest canopy and all that canopy and all that, the fungi is all that fermentation with the mold and the natural fungus inside the humus of the soil. But you don't see apple cider vinegar as a natural phenomenon, right? Because the synergy, remember, our senses are unique and original, and everything of reality is unique and original. So everything is whole, always whole, W-H-O-L-E. So when we're brought up by nature, with no one inculcating us with definitions, we eat whole, we think whole, we dream whole, we live whole, but it's non-stereotyped. We're only using these words because it's like, when we got to see this, it's like we're into the dark cave with a torch, and we put the light on to describe and talk about these insights into the darkness where everyone's trapped in the stereotyping. We don't come in and say, look, notice us, and we're going to get you out of there because, you know, we want to be your new leaders, new cult followers. We're not about any of this stuff. We're just trying to show you how it works, and why it works, and what you got to do about it. If you want true freedom, it means every man, woman, child must stop being inculcated. But some of us have to be so strong that we can actually come together in a large group to raise a group of children who will be brought up by nature without anyone being inculcated, and be strong enough to not let any outside influences come into it to corrupt it, or from inside it, routing out any intelligence operatives inside it to undermine it inside.
Or undermining it with our own self-obsession.
Exactly. So
you were mentioning, you were mentioning apple cider vinegar, but what about all these new hypes and new buzz, like apple cider vinegar, coconut oil, and stuff like that that are obviously processed?
Their definitions defining parts of nature. But like, look, another way to look at it. You get someone to look through a telescope or a microscope, right? Everything they're looking at of reality, undisturbed reality, like celestial bodies, you know, we're seeing through the pollution and chemtrails and all, but we're looking at, you know, seeing undisturbed reality. Every single alphabet thought in our head is not coming from what we're observing. So when we're observing coconuts, the alphabet thoughts in your head is not coming from the coconut. When you're looking at anything of nature, it's not apple cider vinegar or fermentation that you're looking at. That's brainwashing. It's inculcation working inside your fucking head, right? So we've got to watch out all the stereotyping. Wholeness has nothing to do with these things. The only reason why we're involved in creating a food forest garden around this process is because we've got to take responsibility to produce living food and do something under the circumstances we've woken up to. If we had known what we'd known as children, it would have meant that our parents were obviously already awake, and we were supported because there was no one there trying to inhibit and stop that from happening. But the opposite happened. because our parents were desecrated. They fight to continue the desecration. They are prisoners, they're slaves. They brought us up as slaves, and they're going to leave us as slaves when we bury their bodies, or they get buried, whatever, right? The same thing happened with our kids. We would have brought them up as slaves, and then they would have buried us, and they continue on as slavery. So we've got to get past all of this in this life and stop it, right? But you have to use your senses. And all we can do is repair the damage we've done to the forest, repair the damage we've done there by replanting trees, replanting plants, and let the food forest grow everywhere while we withdraw, we walk away from the system. So we're no longer trapped inside numbers that become the suburbs with street numbers and street maps. And we're no longer lost inside the suburbs of a defined reality in a defined country, in a defined state, in a defined race, and the Western world and all that. We got to walk away from all of this, all of it, so that we stop inculcating. Every man, if every man was given, when I say every man, if every man's given the freedom on land, and I'm not talking the best peaches, all the best spots now, all that must be taken over by all of us, for all of us to enjoy. Every good spot, vantage spot, view, location, all that is taken away for all of us to enjoy. The worst parts, we go in and we set up a couple of acres and we help each other. This is why we're getting this group together. Strong enough than the self-obsession, strong enough to work together to recreate that kind of paradise where no one is underneath each other, so that a man can be free all day without a single thought in the head about a mortgage or debt or a credit card, or worrying about they're going to die, worrying about thoughts and about health, right? Because if we have doubts, we'll be thinking about health. If we don't have any doubts, there is no health to be thought about, because we already are. When we have no doubt, the power of the truth is already what we are. We don't doubt it. But when we doubt it, we will be desecrated, and we will accept something to fill the void, that empty space. We gave up because we retreated from that. We walked away from that part and left it for someone else to come in there to provide it for us. And this is slavery for you. So when you give up some part of you, which can't be defined, but when the definitions come to make you imagine that you've given it up, it's another man who comes with the stereotyping to rule you. Because the stereotyping on its own doesn't exist, like astrotheology. It needs a man to come forward. So it's only man to the experience. That's why I'm saying, bring forward an experience without man being a party to that experience. You can't, because everything is to man. Everything we're thinking is man-made. There's no past without man being there. There's no future without man being there. All experiencing today, right now, here and now, is man to the experience. It's only man. Man.
I like the relation. I like the relation you made with the food also, because my son strictly doesn't like cilantro, the taste of cilantro. I don't know why. He tasted a little bit in a salad and he can know there's cilantro in there, and he's not going to eat his plate. He cannot eat it. So, you know me, I love cilantro, and I know a lot of people that like that. So, you know, the experience with the food, with that sense of taste, is very, very unique. So other experiences with our senses has to be very unique also.
We're doing it with our kids with these green juices, because two of my daughters have learnt the obsession about greens and the flavor and the bitterness of greens. So we, since I went through, I went through this trauma stuff, because I've done it 3 times, and I let my body go into my childhood trauma, and I put on a lot of weight. And over the last, since 2014, I really let the trauma come up, and I got swamped. And it's like I'm swimming inside this ocean of occultic intentions, because that's what I wanted to listen to. I'm listening to their intentions, and through scrutiny, I'm working out what's going on. And this is sort of goes back to 2005 when we first started Love for Life. I suffered because I wanted to suffer, not because I'm a masochist. I just want to know what was happening. So in waking up, I've had to start doing green juices lately, because I want to heal my body, and I don't want to revisit the trauma again. I don't want to go back into it again. I don't need to do it, because I've worked out enough insight about what trauma is, how it works, why it works, and all this sort of stuff. And you can see it in the writings. That's where it all comes from, because she gave me the space and support to allow me to get lost inside the trauma. Now, this is I've done it 3 times in the last 3 years. Each time I did it, it got harder to get out. This 3rd time has been unbelievably hard to get out. But I'm getting out. I really am. I have no doubt about it. I'm getting out, and my weight's coming off, and I'm juicing a lot, and there's damage inside my body, and all kinds of stuff has come up. I've already been there from my childhood. I don't want to know, because I have no Medicare. I've got no government registrations. I've got nothing in the system, so I can't go anywhere, and I don't want to. I'm going to do it myself. I heal this me. I don't need anyone else to heal me. I get the support and the love from Fiona and others. I'll do it. So I make these juices and greens with Hannah and others who are here, and we support me. And I'm introducing greens, because we do carrots, apples, we put ginger, we put turmeric, we put what are the thistles? We put thistles, plantain, dandelion. What's that round one we got outside? That other weed called I've forgotten. Mallow. We put mallow in it, because we encourage a lot of weeds here around the garden too. And we're going to, as we see more weeds appearing in the lawns, we're transplanting them into the gutters now. We're going to grow more and more weeds and eat as part of it. So I give my kids, when we make our big juices, because we put oranges and apples and celery and that in it as well, and lemon, beetroot, and so they may complain. They'll drink a cup. They won't drink to the quantity I'm drinking or what Fiona might drink. But we persist, and we get used to it. Practice it, like wearing a Superman costume. They've practiced becoming detached from the greens. So they have this abhorrent reaction to greens, right? Because of the processed foods they've been eating and all that. And that all comes from alchemy, right? Alchemy. And I must stress another point about this. The occultists, they used white sugar, white salt, white rice, white flour intentionally.
I was going to ask you this. What about the poison and the food?
Out of ancient Egypt. And there's also, they're not only just doing that, they're also using tobacco and alcohol, and really marijuana, and with it acid and other stuff, because it's social engineering. And what it does to the red corpuscles in your blood and the blue. Okay, this is science think tank, but what it does to us, it desensitizes us, and it forms addictive patterns. And it forms a self-obsession through the emotion of taste and the highs we get from those experiences that are induced in us. So when you're, under a needle, you get the high. I'm talking about even when you get to a doctor, and like I got a dentist who takes care of me now, with no money, nothing, just willingly helps me. Put a needle in to dumb down, because I'm too gutless to experience going deep down into one of the roots. Because I gave me the choice. I said, no, I'm too gutless, just shoot me up.
Yeah.
But I've taken the needle. Now, there's side effects to that. So with my childhood, with all the sexual abuse that happened to me from 1.5 to 4, not my mother or father, but people that left me with, and all the things, I dived into this. This man dived into that shit to make sense of the occults, to sense of the darkness, because I didn't want to rely on what people were telling me about anything. I wanted to experience it myself, and then work on using analogies, lineal analogies and metaphors, and describe these pictures. And it's particularly since 2014, when the whole thing with David Bottrell and the Order Templi Orientis thing started, and people should learn about this. When they started to come into our lives, we're now dealing with the real troublemakers now. There's many of them involved in this stuff. Many of them. Bless their hearts. They're probably all good hearts too, these people. think they're doing the right thing. But now I can see what's happened to people like David Bottrell, what's happened to all of them, if they want to face it. Because like you talk about, they're my brother. All these occultists are my brothers, they're my sisters. It's only men, our own brother and sister, have turned against us because they were inculcated that way. So going back to the greens and that, we have to find ways and persist in trying to help our children, trying to help each other, trying to make sense of what's happened. So we have to be the eagle who can hold the big picture and have eyes that can go down to the fine detail in anywhere while the eagle's soaring across the horizon. Because if we don't have this ability to scrutinize and use and be vigilant and discerning, we will not rout out all that alphabet trauma, all that stuff that's working on our bodies. right? Because that goes back to what I was mentioning last week, and that dark and invisible part 5. If we don't, the self-obsession will continue pulling us into the I, the all-seeing I, into the self, and the self only performs in the system of that language, which means we need everybody else there to be the props and the characters for us to perform the self-centeredness. Because it can't happen. Because if you're in a forest and there's nothing there, it's only you. And if you want to live, you've got to live, right? And if you get past all the trauma, you can bond with the animals, the big animals. They won't threaten you because you're not a threat to them.
Yeah, but this is what we're designed for also, to live in an environment that is harsh. Not we're not supposed to be in comfort like we are. That's design also.
Exactly. All the comfort of the system is actually killing us. You look at how many people are chronically sick, chronically unfit, chronically overweight. It's because everything is becoming, and the chronic back problems that people have, because we're not supposed to sit in a chair all day. We're not supposed to have everything at ease. So all we have to do is sit and flick the remote control on our easy laid back armchair with our feet up. This is killing us. But I would also like to stress, talking about the food, we use coconut oil, we use apple cider vinegar. We think they're great. We really enjoy them. But they, again, like permaculture, like gardening, they are not our awakening. We can use them to help our bodies be healthier along the way, but we can become totally obsessed about our health and our green drinks. And as you'll see all over the internet, you've got thousands of people, oh, my green juice, my this, my coconut oil, but they're still totally traumatized.
Hi, I'm a slave.
Totally traumatized and asleep because... And it just becomes another form of self-obsession, this whole health business, the whole fitness. And you see that again, the fitness is huge, but it's all self-obsession. It's doing nothing. So yeah, it's great to try and nurture our bodies, but we do have the power and the capability, if we want, to wake up our thinking totally, even while we're eating McDonald's or baked beans every night. We have that power. This is just something that helps our bodies if we want it to, but it's not, it's a crutch. It's still another thing that we're using. It is not the awakening. And this is the biggest trap that is totally fueled by our self-obsession, which is totally prodded by those occultists in control, because they prod our emotions, which prod our self-obsession
with the heart.
And so with the heart, so our self-obsession continues into whatever alleyway we think that is good, that we go to, whether it's going into communities, whether it's getting on a health kick, whether it's, they're all great intentions, but unfortunately we have twisted it all around again with this self-obsession, which comes from the emotions that they keep prodding us with. So every time we look like we might be opening up a little, or actually forgetting about ourselves for a little bit, bang, that an emotional trigger, bang, we fall right back into that, oh, but me, but this, but that, but what am I doing, but I'm not happy, but that's not working for me, and this isn't that and the other. Now and this is where we continue to get this roundabout of emotion,
slavery,
that keeps us coming back to the self-obsession. So we cannot let go. We cannot allow ourselves to be free and just let go of what happens to us and stop worrying about us. And because that is where our freedom is, because then we start worrying about other people around us, and that is our true freedom, and that is the love we have.
Look, an example, free energy. Now, we're coming from comfort lies of the system, but we want free energy because we want to make things better. Our hearts are telling us we've got to stop some of this. So now windmills, all these big windmills, it's murders, multi-millions. And they're turbines. It murders multi-millions of birds and bats. They just fly into them. It's massive devastation.
About 18 million.
Right? Just so you can have the comfort in the home of some free energy. Then you have all the solar free energy. Now, already in China, there are sections in China where multi-thousands are dying of the cancer, and lakes have been terribly toxified to produce the not only the metals and the kind of materials required to build the solar panels, right? And whatever else that comes with it. So just so you can put them up on your roof to get your free energy, so you can continue this comfort as a slave in the system, because that's the system for you. So now the good hard things are good. It's free energy. Now, is that really free? Truly, is it free? It's not.
Anyway, that freedom
is
for self-obsession anyway. It's because I don't have to pay the bill for my electricity.
But I still want all the good things of the system. See, so we've got to get past all this, because That's not a remedy. It's just our heart's been manipulated again. We think we're doing the right thing, but we haven't been able to be the eagle to step back and see the bigger picture and the consequences. Because see, today, with all the horrors that's happening in Australia 40 years ago, we never thought it would ever come to this country. We would see kind of homelessness and poverty the way we're seeing it today. It really was. It's just this country was affluent in many ways. Truly was. It's cost of living and all that. If you're just prepared to get up and work and do a bit, you can have something. You know, as long as you're not absolutely lazy. But today, we're seeing immense poverty, immense homelessness, the injustice and the sufferings. Look, more than, I'm only making this up because I don't know what the real numbers are, but it has to be somewhere close to 90% under the pressure of surviving the economics of today, just to make by. They may have got themselves so practiced that they have their relief through football, television, soccer, drugs, social life, pornography, sex, girlfriends, whatever. There's so many different reliefs to keep perpetuating it. But most people don't want to see the reality of the horror while they're running around in their jobs and their careers, and while they're having their porno and their sex and everything else that goes on. They don't want to see it because it comes too much, right? So it's the same thing with free energy. We don't want to see it. It's the same thing with God and Jesus and the Christians. They don't want to see. They don't want to see that all the priests that led the Bibles into all the how do you pronounce the word conquistadors? The multi-millions of men on the land that were devastated, or what now we call Central America and South America, and then the French and the English, and then you look at the Portuguese and the Dutch and all the others, the Spanish, wherever else they went. How many multi-millions of men on the land were decimated in the name of the Bible? Now Christians don't want to look at this. They say, oh, yeah. But they don't realize, and it's still going on today, the discrimination and the censorship, because if you're not a Christian, you're going to hell, sort of, There will be some kind of alienation. Now, yeah, sure, now the occults are working to bring the new kind of Christianity together with Judaism and Buddhism and with the Muslims, and we're going to try and bring a peace. A one world peace, and all these intelligence operatives, all these shepherds, all these bloodlines, because all one family bloodlines going to come through from each one of them, and we're going to work it all together to bring in the one world system, one world law, one world religion, one world government. To bring
why Jesus died for our sins.
Yeah, why died for our sins? As if we're already guilty, but people don't know what the original sin is. They don't comprehend how you're born into original sin, because it's desecration. We're talking about desecration, going back to the stereotyping that causes the sin. The child lost to Superman, and child says, yes, Superman exists. That's the sin, because they believe in the fantasy is the truth. Because in the system, everyone sees reality, but they believe the reality is the truth, when really that reality was defined reality. The concrete, the concrete is real. The Supreme Court's real. The technology is real. But there's nothing living there. There's no soul there. It's the dead performing the concrete. It's the dead performing electricity or government or law or politics or astrotheology or any of the occults. It needs a man to be a slave performing the occults. And that's what concrete and steel and plastic is, and all these things that are not natural in that way, right? If we didn't disturb Earth, everything has a purpose. But we're so disconnected, we can't sense the wholeness of everything and why we should desecrate it, right? Because we've mapped it all out with numbers in our heads. And you come out of this university so brainwashed, you see 1 tree, 2 tree, 3 tree, 4 tree. Oh, I'll take 4 tree out. That's not important.
We have broken our will, our integrity. We have broken everything. If we don't reverse that, you're gonna die like that.
That's why I went into the trauma, because I don't want to give up, and I don't want to live a lie like this. So, what the insights we're sharing shows a way out of this, but not to follow us or follow me or follow anything. Is that when you wake up to see the occults working in your head, and how the slave masters have got you? Because remember, we're talking about a covert control. Originally, when it was overt, there was no need for any of this. It was just brutality, physical, outright brutality, and you knew who your enemy was. But now we're dealing with covert methods where no one can really put their finger on it. We'll blame the Rothschilds. We'll blame the Rockefellers. We'll blame the fallen angels. We'll blame the Anunnaki. We'll blame the Syrian constellation where these people came and messed with us and manipulated the Nephilim, and we turned into these beasts and cyclop type monstrosities, you know. Look, it's unbelievable how the occults work.
And yet you're right in saying, really, we just got to blame ourselves because we have fallen for the, like when he was just talking about the affluence and stuff, you know, we've got all these people today, and I'm sure you're the same in Canada. They've all got the house, they've got the nice car, they have the lifestyle, but it's just all hanging on a little thread because most of it is debt. And it just takes such a tiny little bit, like the bank suddenly says they want the house back, and the whole thing can come crashing down, and it's all our fault because we've bought into that crap dream of the definitions that says we have to have this house, we have to have that, we have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, when if we had just a bit of land, we can. There are so many examples now of people building houses for a few $1,000s, and not just horrible things, beautiful, lovely places to live, but just simple, easy. But no, we've fallen for that dream that says, no, we have to have this, we have to have that. We can't be happy without this, that, and the other. So you're right. We can't blame the Rothschilds or whoever. We've got to look at ourselves and say, well, what are we thinking buying into this ridiculous stuff that we cannot be comfortable? We cannot be happy if we do not have all this stuff and all this possession.
We're all deeply compromised, but doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing this, and we're not working on that road, going on that path, right? Because that's what kingdom's all about. That is in this life is to begin to set up a large group of community immunity, not in fear, not in doubt. Simply, we hold this dream, and we carry it out. So we don't get caught up in the pettiness of self-obsession. We don't get in the pettiness of how each of us feel. My money, mine this, mine that, and this is how we break each other down, and we break up this possibility. We've got to come together to set a way of life to show how we can live without the system and spread that out so people can see you don't need the system. And then from that, all the healing, the real healing, right? Look, the goal for us, the goal is to break down this occults, break it down. Because if we can let it go, the hold of government will no longer control us anymore in our heads because it's covert influence gone, right? The control of the law gone. All these people put in jail because of statute laws, because they've broken the laws where they've never injured anyone, never committed a crime, never stolen anything, never had an intention, yet they're in jail. These people, I get it with people who've done murder or people who've done violence. I get that. These people need help, but they're also at the effect of the occults too, right? So all these people have to be freed from the jails because they're there for all the wrong reasons. They've been lied to and not been given full disclosure how this whole thing works, right? So in the same way, we, all of us who want to work together, we're saying, come and work with us, not be we're your leader. We're committed to creating a way of life here to show how this works. But you've got to face your self-obsession and get past this, because otherwise it's always about what's in it for me with my land, my garden, all this self-obsession stuff. It doesn't fix the bigger problem. It doesn't even begin to approach the bigger picture.
Also, the truth is you don't have to live large to feel like the man in charge, you know?
Yeah, but if we want to, exactly. But if we don't set up a way of life, look, I think the way to look at it for us anyway, you've got to hold the big picture of the nightmare of the system and see us as a man unwilling to be under its power anymore. How do we change the way we live in knowing that everyone around us is still trapped in it? Now, how many of us can come together to work together and create a kingdom without this influence while it's still all going around us, to break the hold of the system so it collapses? You see, we need to cause the system to collapse so that every man then has the freedom to begin to create their real life, working together with others, not under stereotyping, not under orders, simply using your conscience, right? All the best locations for everyone to enjoy. We're not going to take and argue and fight over it. We'll take all the worst things that we all contributed, because while we're all in the system, we're all the consumers of everything that was destroyed. All the while we're lost as slaves. We've got to fix all this damage. I mean, if one man can create a 1,600 or 460 acre, whatever it was, forest in India, or the guy that repaired the
coral reef. The coral reef too are being repaired.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if we imagine when we get 30, 40, 50s working together, and we're not only repairing who we are, we've got to repair it, but we don't have to think about waking up to mortgages and debts and credit cards and elections and all that. And when no one has to go to school anymore to continue the inculcation, the real man's still there with the heart. Can imagine what we can start to create with that, without that inculcation. Now, we need to be strong enough to not let the self-obsession fuck this up. Now, we've been through this. We've had people come and stay with us, and they go through this. And we sit with our own eyes when you're watching them going through this, and they see there's something about me. I'm responsible, or she's responsible, or something else is responsible, because they can't hold the bigger picture. And the key is that unless you can hold the big picture and hold it in present sense, if you can't, it will collapse to the self-centeredness and the obsession that you start holding. And so the real picture starts to fade away, and the shit grows. And that shit you'll take with you wherever you go. And that's what destroys everything and wrecks everything. And that's why there's very few communities that have been able to keep together unless they're in a cult of the Old Testament.
And is that what you call living your truth?
Yeah, but how can that be defined? So you can't really, the truth is there's no word to describe it.
I mean, the thing is, I think that's really important to realize is that we're always going to, when we work with each other, when we live with each other closely, we are always going to have times where we do not agree, where we think someone did the wrong thing, or they think we did the wrong thing, and we can have an argument about it or a disagreement about it. And that's fine. That's going to happen. The problem comes when we get fixated on that argument and on that disagreement and who was right and who was wrong. Now, if you're in a marriage with someone, I'm sure you have this experience, we have this experience, there are always going to be occasions where he is 100% adamant that this is the case, and I'm 100% adamant that that is the case. Now, we can either keep rummaging over that for the next 2 years, no, but I was right, or we have to get to the point we go, okay, we just have to let that go and move on, because otherwise we're stuck. We cannot move on. We're stuck in that right-wrong argument, and we go nowhere. So that it's getting to that point where we all have to go to a point that, okay, he's really pissed me off now. I don't like that. I don't like what he said. I don't agree with it. But in the end, the only choice is, if you still hold that bigger dreaming picture, the only choice is just move on and let go of what happened. So you don't think about it anymore and go, okay, we disagreed. We just have to, that's it. We don't agree. And, you know, no matter how much we argue, we're not going to agree. And on the subject of self-obsession, as this little chap came in, here's a Fluffy who's staying with us. We're looking after him. Now I was thinking about him and self-obsession. He nearly died about 2 months ago. He punctured his trachea, and his breathing went everywhere. His breath was going all through his body. Literally, he was puffing up, blowing up like a balloon. And yet, look at him. He doesn't think about that anymore. He's long gone past
he's ready
that.
to eat.
You know, all he wants to do is eat now. He's because he's got a bit skinny.
He's in the moment.
He's just totally in the moment. All he needs, he's happy so long as he's got somewhere warm and comfortable to sleep. He gets some love, he gets food, and he's got some stimulation. He's got the garden. He gets some nice walks and stuff like that. That's the simplicity of a life that is not one of self-obsession.
And you know why? Because they hold the big picture of what it is to be a dog.
Exactly.
Right. The thing is, same with us.
He has no doubt and uncertainty whatsoever about what he is and who he is.
This is why. This is why the gradualism of education has been very cunning. To be able to, and this is where the gradualism introduction of technology is very cunning, because the fast pixelation, zoom in, zoom out, you can't concentrate, breaking down. So you're breaking down, you can't hold a bigger picture. And when you're all broken down at the effect of all these things, that confusion makes you easily controlled, because all that confuses who can be manipulated and controlled by those who are outside the box watching those. Again, watch that film Dark City, because it's really how it works in the same way. You know, the sentiments are there.
I hadn't finished.
Yeah, sorry, apologies.
No, I was just thinking, the other thing with him, this little Fluffy, is he does not look at the Great Dane and start getting insecure because the Great Dane is bigger than him. And the Great Dane is stronger, and the Great Dane has a comfier bed, and the Great Dane rides around in a better car than him, and the Great Dane gets more walks than him. It doesn't even, none of that. If he meets the Great Dane, all he senses is a dog, and he senses everything about that dog. But there's no doubt and uncertainty about who we look at this and think, oh, it's just a fluffy little white thing. you know, and yeah, I know. And is that a proper dog, you know, or is it just a fluffy white rabbit? But he has no doubt, none whatsoever about
in spite of what's been generally done to the breeding that's produced the dog. You know, all dogs come from wolves. So
yeah, and to come back to couples relation, how to make it work after so long. It started when the shift started occurring when I first of all when I started realizing a bit more the big picture, but also I think that's the same thing that could happen in the world eventually to help progress with the change, if we start choosing love over being right or wrong. And in our couple, in my life with Kim, that's what's happening often, is there's always one of us, if it's not me, because sometimes I will be more on the argument, more wanting to prove my point than being wrong, being right. Like I get caught up again still, but she will choose love. She will react and choose love and not argue and tell me in my face, or, you know, so this is the way I think it's a great way to make it work together.
If your love is directed, remember, it's your life. Love is your life force, energy, raising up whatever it is. In this case, your love could be with the seed and nurturing it and allowing it to blossom, right? The love is not our love. It's the life we give. We don't own, right?
Exactly.
So unless you hold the big picture, your love can go to something that isn't the big picture and will perpetuate this problem. It's because we love. Look, the occultists are jealous lovers. They love us so much that they want to make us all like them in their image, so they can cream us of everything that we are for them to have what they want. Because that's why you have pharaoh and emperor and dictators and presidents, and you have judges, and you have all these positional figureheads all through the system, police officer, authority figures. Look, unless you grasp the big picture, this idea of love will be misplaced, and we will perpetuate a remedy that will perpetuate this problem. If the love isn't the issue, love is coming into a situation saying, I love you, that's not going to fix anything. It's because we fucking love these things that we fuck everything up. We got to get past all this. You've got to know who you are, and you got to wake up to the bigger picture and give that love, give your energy to that, and don't lose sight of the focus of the big picture. Because if you do, you'll be manipulated by occultists, by them, and you will end up in the New World Order system, right, where you think the love is.
Okay, what about the concept of loving yourself before you can love others? What about that?
There's a child brought up in nature doesn't have a self to love. It already is.
Okay, that's what I thought also. It's like believing in yourself. It's the same nonsense.
There's nothing to believe. Because when you believe, it means you have doubt about what you are.
And it's also that doubt about who we are that has us try and impose what we think and feel on those around us. Because what you're talking about with you starting to wake up and see things differently. We have spoken to a lot of men and women over the years who, one of them is talking to us because they've started waking up and realizing things and what's going on, but their partner hasn't. And what we've come to the realization of what we say to them is like, you don't have a right to dictate to your partner what they think and feel and what they do. And you know, you married them. Oh, and possibly you have children with them, and that's a big commitment you made. All you can do is be the living example of what you want, the love. If you want to start growing some food, you can start growing some food in the garden, and you may find they turn around and go, wow. We have that also. A lot of people who come across us or come here, they instantly they become evangelical. They want to convert their whole families. Come on, kingdom, love for life. And then they get, you know, a bit you know, it's a real downer for them when the families are kind of going the way I might if a Christian, you know, one of my family turned Christian has started to try and convert me. I'm suddenly going, no, thank you. You know, that's not for me.
But I still love you.
I still love you.
But that's my energy to you.
Exactly. And it's that same thing. It's our doubt and uncertainty that makes us try and push our waking up onto other people. So that, because if we're waking up, they have to wake up too. But this is all part of the self-obsession, all part of the definition, and all part of the fear of not having the approval of those around us in our waking up, because most people don't approve. Most people, when you start waking up and start trying to point out, hey, things are a bit different than you think, a lot of people don't want to know, and that's fine. They don't have to. But you shouldn't let your fear and doubt and uncertainty get you go into conflict about that or stop you with what you're doing.
You see, let's go back to this. A definition, right? is the intention of another man to blueprint you, right, with an effect that will have you be in the definition that benefits the man who designed it, the stereotype, right? So if you don't route out the definition before it arrives in your head, you'll take on the definition and then you project it, you illuminate the definition, you're illuminating it. Now this is animation. We animate the definition. And when we're animating, we're advertising the definition. That becomes our commercial. In the system of commerce, we are commercial entities because we are defined. Arthur has been defined with a birth date and a tax file number. You see, the definition is insidious because those who define you want you to project the definition, to animate it. So you're advertising it, illuminating it, and that becomes your commercial. Because, hi, I'm a Christian. I was defined because I was infiltrated. I've accepted the definition, and now I'm projecting it out as the animation of that sense of belonging I have with the definition that defined my fake persona, or the ego, the e-go. I on the go and with that definition. Basically, I'm saying that the man who defined me, that defined my identity, is my God. The e-go, ecclesiastical God. They're the high priests of Freemasonry, the e-motion. I am forever animating and advertising the commercial of that man's invention and being in his image. That's why they say in the Bible, man is in the image of God. Well, in this case, man is in the image of the grand architect who defines you. And you're promoting it and advertising it. So watch out for definitions, because the definitions is what's got us all in this mess, being stereotyped.
Yeah, very
right?
much.
Originally, it would have been done through remote projection in a tribe behind the trees. A man would have got and put the picture in your head, putting it in there. And if you don't realize you're not creating it, but someone else is putting that in your head and you're picking it up through the water of our breath, because we can do that, you can actually raise up the definition, energize it. So it's like a little tiny thing, a dot, and we zoom it out into a box.
Yeah.
Zoom it out like that into a big box, or a spiral vortex if you want. We spiral out. I'll bring my mother into it, my father, my brother, my sister, my friend. I want to suck you all in. I want you all to be defined. Come unto me. And the man who's invented it is manipulating. This is what occultists do. And the definition destroys us because we don't know who we are. And if we're confused, if we have any doubt, we will give life. We will love the definition.
And then we try to do it.
We will love it.
Those around us.
The same love I have.
We try to perpetuate it after.
Yeah, exactly. We take what they've done to us and try and put it on all those around us. You know, that's what we do.
And we basically, that's why I say the system is is a commercial. We animate it. And we're advertising it. That's all it is. We're all lost. Animating definitions.
That's why we have so many cartoons.
You see, so same with astrotheology with Santos. Bless the man. But he's performing all the self-fulfilling prophecies of these archetypes. It's a spiraling vortex. And you get sucked in and you'll resonate with it. And you'll accept the influences of astrology on you and to define your character and all the other generations will do it. If you accept the definition, every single man who gave the energy to it, gave love to it because they loved it, becomes you.
It becomes your reality, and that's it.
Yeah, and that power of all of those men and women is on you.
Yeah.
So you fall even deeper into reading your star signs, looking at your charts, looking at your birth dates. But none of this, it's all because we are God creating it. We truly are. So we create the outcome, right? Because of the intention of a brother. And we accept that intention. So we animate it. And we're these commercial characters running around advertising, right? Like in comic strips. So what's the difference between a film projector as the man and the film passing across the lens of the man, animating into the cinema of life as a canvas to reflect it back? And we call that astrotheology, or we call it Christendom, or we call it quantum physics or mathematics. You can't go and visit mathematics. There's nowhere to go and visit number 1, 2, or 3. We can't go and visit the Fibonacci code. We can see the shapes, but the definitions don't come from the shapes we're observing of nature. It's come from another man who's put it in our heads as we're looking through the microscope at it, or a telescope. So our head is spinning with the intention of those who wanted us to amplify the definitions. That's why you go to university, to amplify and become an engineer, to be a scientist, to be a brainwashed zombie, white collar, blue collar, whatever. That's what's going on. And we don't need to do this to still be alive. Right? And the other thing I should point out, when I was going through this trauma stuff and working through it, I got the sense that a man could originally dream a bird because it had a purpose for the dream of life, and watch that bird just fly from the man's hand. I got to see that the mountains were created by our ancestors, that everything of nature was created by us. But we are so fallen into the definitions that we agreed in the dreaming to zoom out of our abilities. We still have love. We still energize the same love that God has in all of us, the original dream of man. We still have that love.
Yeah.
We never lost it. But we're directing it into fantasy, into constructs, concepts.
Concepts and construct.
Right? And we're giving all our energy to that. So the effort we put in to destroy was the same effort we put in to create living things. Because we could create the grasshopper. We could create the fly. But we're so gone. And
we are creating things now and food and stuff, but it's all GMO where we're putting madness into it. So we are creating things. We can create anything.
Yeah, exactly. The cultists know this. The cultists know the true heritage of man. Our own brothers have gone against their own brothers just so they can set themselves up on a pedestal to think that there's some higher glory for them and have power. That's all they got.
How many fruit and veggies are created by men? They were not here originally. We have created them.
If we did it through our senses, through our inspiration of our living soul, and we're creating, we're about 6 degrees here, so we've got blankets on our.
Yeah, it's cold in your area. Eh?
But I've just got a t-shirt top, and I'll be outside all day, and I get used to it during the day if I'm busy. But sitting down here.
So we're not that far from each other because it's pretty cold here too. It's summer, but it's cold.
We're outside now. I don't know. We've got to get outside because we've been anyway. There'll be a couple of videos we're going to put up very soon about some of the things we're doing outside. And I'm healing because I couldn't physically work when I came out of this last stage. I was physically down, and I could feel some serious damage in my body from the trauma. And so I said, right, I'm just letting go, and that's why I've been doing this stuff. But I'm getting my physical energy back now.
That's it.
And so. It's like a rehabilitating.
It's good. It's good. I'm very happy that we're doing it too. I'm always delighted to hear you. That's why I don't talk much when you're here, because I like to hear you also. Thanks. I do this show. I don't do this show for boosting my self-obsession or my ego. It's to learn. It's always been to learn and to connect with people. And that's why I always connected with many different people on YouTube. You, Santos, bring it on. Like, I want to have a wide, big picture, you know? So that's why I always enjoy hearing you talk. It's always very...
Thanks.
Very pleasant.
Like the passion of us is very intense. And we have so much to share, and that's why we enjoy doing it. Give us the freedom to do it. And allow us to just go blah and just let it all just come out, you know.
No, but that's what we need. We need intensity. We need that fire inside us to keep ignited and keep it burning and keep it we need action. We need action over words. Like I say all the time in my video, I can talk all day, blah, blah, blah. But if we don't take action, if we don't discipline ourselves with the intent, discipline to take action, nothing will ever change here. We can talk day and night about ABC 1, 2, 3. We need action, and we need, first of all, to amplify the love, and whatever, it's just a word after all, but a word that means a lot. Words still have power, and if we use the power of words in the right direction, we can create shift inside ourselves and inside each other also. It's about elevating and inspiring and staying inspired. So it's very...
What did we call the series? The Illusion of Self-Obsession. Is that what it was called? What do we call it?
Breaking the illusion of self-obsession.
Well, Patrick, one of the Facebook friends, said, why don't we call this one Breaking the Illusion of Self-Obsession Junkies?
Oh, yeah, that's true. And Junkies. Yeah, I'll replace the title. I'll put Junkies. I saw Patrick. He's here. Exactly. He's in the chat right now. Big up, Patrick.
Hi, Patrick. You want to do next Sunday again for us, our time, to try and wind it up? Or
what? What did you say?
Want to do another show next Sunday?
Yeah. We're on again next Sunday. The people know also live and direct that we're going to be here at the. We're not too much in time. We're timeless people, but by respect for everybody, we like to put time.
I was just going to say, we still want to animate some of the commercials
Yeah.
of the advertising we're promoting here. So there's a bit more we'd like to cover, but.
Oh, I had 3 pages of stuff to go with you, and I think we went to maybe a page and a half, so I still have more stuff for self-obsession. Self-obsessed junkie! We're going to put them to...
One more thing, Jahnick. With Santos, if you watch this, listen, man, I want to work with you in the garden, man, growing food together, growing abundance and freeing each other. If your heart's in the right place, that's what we should be doing. I'm not trying to define you, to force you to do this. And this includes anyone who's trapped in the occult. In the end, let's work together to create abundance, to set us all free from being enslaved. And we stop enslaving each other to this stuff. Okay, so there may be disputes about this bigger stuff, but in the end, to me, all our energy should be going into creating the abundance that sets us free from the system. And that maybe give us all the time to begin to work for all the rest of this stuff. If we haven't got the waking life and the ability to process all this now, right? So that's what we're about. We just want to inspire enough people to say, let's do something so we're not enslaved to anyone. Because the thing is, no man should be answering to any man about anything.
Exactly.
Because we are already the doctor. We all
have the same biological equipment to make sense of reality. You know? So let's stop looking at other people to instruct us. And I have the ability to make sense of reality. You too. I don't need you, but I like to discuss with you about stuff. But it's not because I'm obsessed about Tru-Mon Cristian and I need him to make sense of reality. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that I like to hear your point of view. I like to hear your side of you. I like to hear your truth. And you are a man that's living the truth. So that's what I like. But I like real people. I don't like fake people. So that's why you don't see much fake people. But Santos, it would be interesting to have him sit with us. That's what I'm going to try to do, to have him come in and to hang out so we talk together about it. I would like
welcome. He's most welcome. The thing is, look, for us, we want to break down the system, the grip of the system, so we're not enslaved to the system, right? That's our only intention why we do this. Because if we can break the system down and get rid of it out of our lives, we wake up and go to bed with not anything around us that we're answerable to anymore. Then it's up to us to carry that responsibility and spread that out.
That's what I said. Fighting that shit stem is my pride.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
that's the reason why we keep talking. Otherwise, we'd be outside all day, every day, and not wanting to do videos and talking But the thing is, it's the pressure, the peer pressure. Everybody wants the system. That's like the army and the forces that come on those lands to decimate the tribes. They're going to decimate. They're going to come and swap our children and swap our lives and swap everybody if we don't stop this. Exactly. That's the only reason why we do all this. You know. Stop it. We're all going to stop it.
I don't do that for money. YouTube, I don't even monetize nothing. It's not even about money. There's no money involved in my thoughts here. It's about us. It's about us saving ourselves first. Save yourself. You don't need anybody to save you. Save yourself, and then maybe the world.
Jahnick, it's going to take a lot of us working together to get past the self-obsession, to create this way of life again, how it was. So people can actually sense it with their own eyes and see that it's not a utopia dream, that that uncertainty has been knocked on the head.
It's okay. Right? I'm on a mission here. I'm on a mission. Don't worry about me. I'm going to be here forever. I'm on a mission. I've been ordained to be great. So I'm being great. That's great.
Okay, man.
Boom.
All power to the man.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for coming on. And we'll be on again next week. People, thanks a lot in the chat. There was a big chat going on there. Lots of love. I seen lots of love and hearts and all kinds of good vibrations. So that's what I noticed.
Breaking the system down. They're not talking about it. They're outside breaking the system down. Creating gardens, growing food, sharing it, working together, building homes together, and not relying on the system with its laws and its governments, and we've got to break it down, guys.
But look, it's really a work that you have to do on yourself, because how many times I've hang out with you, I've interact with you, and I just started to plant my food. So, you know, it's sometimes you have to work hard on people to really, that's why you said we're going to be here a while working on that self-obsession thing, because sometimes you have to repeat. That's how we've been indoctrinated and brainwashed, by repeating stuff. So
exactly.
we're going to repeat.
Because if we don't, I've got to go to the shops now. I've got to go buy my food.
Exactly.
And we're all compromised. And we've got to say, how do we stop this?
Yeah.
You know, we've got to go turn the tap on. The water's coming from the council, and they're going to send a bill with it.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to stop this.
We got to stop the leak, for sure.
We're not injuring anyone. We're not committing any crimes. We don't want to covet anyone. We don't want to use them. No, anyone's got a good heart doesn't want to do that.
We're not torturing animals here. We're not torturing animals live and direct. We're not torturing anybody. We're just speaking our mind and speaking truth, and whatever truth is.
We don't want to go to war. We're fighting.
But anyway, there's work to be done. There's work to be done, and we're going to do it little by coming together as one, and really put an end to that shit stem. And maybe that's going to be another system. Maybe that's going to be a system and not a shit stem. But anyway, we will see when we get there.
The cis of the stem, the shit, because that's what a cis is all got to do with shit. So
and now the shit is starting to hit the fan, and we're the fan. So come on, let's move the fan and dissipate the shit.
Because if I remember correctly, the system came out of the Roman sewers.
Yeah.
That's what I think. It's so serious. If I remember the breaking down of the language of the code, I think it is the Roman sewers. That's where the word system came out of.
Yeah, well, you have a toilet system, don't you? The cistern on your toilet.
And we're all in
with
the system. We're all in the shit together.
Yeah, we're going to get out this shit anyway. So thank you very much, Arthur and Fiona, again. Arthur, I always say it the French way. I can't say that word in English. Archer, I always have a problem. So I rename you Arthur in French. And that's fine.
It's a pleasure, mate.
Thank you very much, and have a good day for you. Me, it's night time for me. It's 9 o'clock at night. You, it's 11 o'clock in the morning, I think. Yeah. So have a great day. A great day in the garden, and in the Garden of Eden. Or the Garden of Fiona. It's more, we should call it the Garden of Fiona. She's the empress of the house. So it's the Garden of Fiona.
She's the neck, mate. She's the neck. The head turns when she tells me. I like that.
She's the boss.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
Within our world, watching dreams without blue skies floating by. Why are the gray clouds forming overhead? Forming overhead. I'm trying to breathe. I'm following the path mapped out from the start. Why do my dreams keep moving out of sight? Moving out of sight. Ooh, I'm trying to fly, but where's the light that keeps me down? Sunshine that I seek shines faintly through the smoke. Layers of fantasy, images that blind us to our lives, blind us to our lives. And I'm trying to see, I'm juggling with my things, I'm struggling with the cold, and I'm spinning in a vortex. takes a burning words, a burning words. Ooh, and my head's on fire. Oh, where's the love inside my heart to wake me up from storyland, from my deep sleep? We'll save the forest, we'll save the mountains, we'll save the ocean when we save our lives. We'll save the children, we'll save the old ones, we'll save our earth when we save our lives by doing no harm. Ooh. We're living for the love that lights up in our hearts. We're living for the dream of a world of do no harm. We're living for our kin, our tribe of conscious men. We're living for the truth, no more waiting for saviors.